Hi and welcome to this beginner tutorial on using Plasticity, an innovative 3D modeling tool designed for hard surface creations. In this I will replicate a project I previously created in FreeCAD, demonstrating how to approach a similar design with this software. Along the way you will learn some basics of the UI, the key tools and essential techniques to model a simple hard surface object. When you open Plasticity you can see a simple object, a cube, like you know it from Blender, which is called a solid. First things first, I go to the preferences and the navigation and set Blender as a preset for mouse orbit and stuff because I'm used to it. Other settings I keep to default for the moment. Okay, now let's have a look at some very basics, for example the selection modes here in the upper left hand corner. The first one is for selecting control points of curves. I come back to this later on. The second option is to select edges. You see this here in the viewport. When I hover over an edge, I can select it with the left mouse button. Number 3 is for selecting faces of a solid or a curve. And when I do this, the offset face default tool is selected and I can move around the face like that. To apply the operation, you can press the OK button of the panel, or you just right click in the viewport. The last selection mode is number 4, body. With that you can select objects. I press the G key now to activate the move tool and you see you get a gizmo to move the object around. More options of a tool you always find after selecting it in the lower right hand corner. For example here to constrain the movement to an axis. Alright, now let's switch again to the edge selection and select an edge. And then you see that the fillet tool is active to add a kind of bevel. When I move to the right I get a chamfer, which is a bevel with hard edges, and to the left I get a fillet, which is a bevel with round edges. Very simple. Okay, so far for the introduction. Let's delete the solid and use curves to define the shape for the object that we like to create, similar to the one that I created using FreeCAD. Before we start, I like to snap the view to the top. You can do this by clicking the cube in the upper right hand corner, but I prefer to press the Alt key and the middle mouse button and move the mouse, and then the view gets snapped at a certain angle and you see here that the view is snapped now to the top. Great, now let's start by adding circles, which are also curves. You find them in the panel here on the right side, and I use a circle that is centered. This means you click into the surface, and this is the middle of the circle, and then you drag out your circle from there. Very simple, it's snapped here to the axis. I click, and then I draw the circle. We just eyeball it. I don't use exact measurement, we can do that, but I will show you this feature in one of the next tutorials. Okay, now we have one circle, a curve. You see this in the curves section on the left side. And now we draw another curve, another circle on top of the existing one, just a bit bigger. You see this is very simple and intuitive. Alright, now we need the same on the right side, a bit larger, just to match the shape of the model that I created in the FreeCAD tutorial. Another circle like that, and again one above with a larger radius. Okay, now we have these circles. You can see them and select them in the curves group on the left side. And now comes the fun part. I want to connect the outer circles by using curves that have a shape like that, okay? Just an arc or something like that. To do that, we can select a control point curve. From this panel, when you click and hold, you get all the subtools. And after selecting it, I hover over the edge of a circle, click one time, click again to define the control point, one more time to define the second control point, and then again to the edge of the circle on the right side and double click to create the curve. I hold the Shift key now to select control point selection and edge selection at the same time. And now I can select the control points to adjust the angle of the curve, like that. And I can go ahead and select the curve itself, which is also an edge. This is why I want to use edge selection. And with this selected, I want this curve to be mirrored to this side here. To activate the mirror, I press Alt and X. After that, I select the side that I want to be mirrored to the other side, this one. And after I click that, you see that the curve is mirrored. And be sure that the option Merge Halves Together is activated, and then I just press OK. That's it. Now we have the 2D shape of the object that we want to create. Okay, now I want to extrude the solid from this 2D shape, but you see, according to our curves, we have a lot of faces that we could extrude, but I want to extrude one face. So what I do now is to show you how we can remove edges from this shape that we don't need using the trim tool. You find this again here in the panel on the right side, and just click the edge now that you want to delete. Okay, that's it. And when I select the face now, you see that we have one face that we can extrude to the upside, which I do now using the extrude tool. Just pull the gizmo to the upside and you see that the solid is created. Right click to apply, and here's the basic shape as a solid. If you like, you can rename it. I call it body. We don't need the curves anymore, so I can select the curves by selecting the curves group, and then I press the X key. Now to make the object look a bit more crisp, I'm going to add chamfers and fillets. Now with edge selection activated, I click on this edge, then use the gizmo to add a chamfer or a fillet. This is a fillet, you see this is round, but when I move in the opposite direction, I get a chamfer that I want to use for these inner circles. Okay, but before I apply, let me show you a little trick how to add the same chamfer for the other circles as well. I hold the Ctrl key pressed and select the circles. For that I also want to add the chamfer, and then I release the Ctrl key, and because the operation isn't applied, the same chamfer is added to all the circles, and then to apply I could press OK or just right click. That's it. By the way, you see the edges through the solid, and this is because the X-ray mode is activated. When I deactivate it, it looks like that. I want to add another fillet to the outlines of the object. To select the whole rim and not just one edge, I can press the Alt key and click. And you see now the whole outline is selected, but I move now to the left side to add a round edge, a fillet. The same I want to add for the whole edge at the bottom. So again, Alt click to select the whole outline, and now the fillet is added as well, and then right click to apply. So now we are done basically. This is what we created in FreeCAD, but I want to extend this tutorial a bit and show you another great feature to cut through an object using a Boolean operation. For this I snap the view to the right, like that. I hold the Shift key and middle mouse button and move the mouse to pan the view, and now use a curve again, in this example a rectangle, to cut through the object. This is also a rectangle that is drawn from the center, so snap to this point, click and drag out the shape. In order to prevent snapping to the edges of the solid, I hold the Ctrl key pressed. Then left click and the curve is created. But you see it is inside of the solid, so I press G key to move it a bit to the front, because I want to modify it before I cut into the solid. I want to add some round edges to this shape, so I press the B key, which does nothing else than adding a fillet, but now to this 2D shape. Okay, I go with that, again right click to apply, and this is now my cutter. Now I press the C key to activate the cut operation. I select the object that I want to cut into, and then a kind of temporary object is created that is used to cut into the solid. Right click to apply. Then the cut is done, the curve and the cutter is selected, and if you want to get rid of that, just press the X key. Boom. And here see how easy that is. Again, I want to add a fillet to these edges here, select them, and drag the gizmo to add the fillet. Hold the Ctrl key pressed to add the same fillet to these edges on the other side and right click to apply. So that's it, looks pretty nice. To hide the edges from rendering in the viewport, you can right click the render mode and then deselect show edges. I see we have a little bit of an issue here, this edge is a bit too hard, but I will show you how to resolve this in one of the next tutorials. Alright guys, I really hope you liked the video and my channel, and if you do, then please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any questions, add these to the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one here on JNM.